Hi, I'm Bill Laberis. I'm the Senior Editorial Director of IDG's Custom Solutions Group, and I'm joined today by Andrzej, who is the Chief Technology Officer, Enterprise Security Services at HP, and by popular enterprise security blogger Bob Gourley. Bob, Andrzej, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the threat environment facing the enterprise today. Andrzej, what has changed significantly, if anything, in this threat environment, like, say, in the last 18 to 24 months?
A really interesting question. I think there are three big disruptive trends that are facing the environment we see today. I see a huge change in the cyber threat itself, both in the speed and the complexity of attacks. We are seeing a much more sophisticated vector and very targeted attacks, focusing on key data assets within both government and the enterprise. I think the second big change has been one around the consumerization of IT, and I'd love to talk about that in a little while, because I think how we use IT is changing, and that real pressure is being pushed down through the IT organization within some of our largest clients. And the third area, I think we can talk about cloud, but really cloud as an entry point for the changing way of delivering IT. So whether it's a hybrid delivery model, whether it's traditional outsourcing, or whether it's some of the fundamental infrastructure blocks, this is going to be a huge change for the industry. And securing that, I think, is one of those big challenges and threats, but also a great opportunity for an organization.
So the nature and intensity of the threats, the consumerization of IT, and of course the big changes afoot in application services delivery.
Absolutely.
Anything you'd add to that, Bob?
Well, that was actually very well put. And one thing it does bring to mind, however, is the nature of the threat, as you mentioned. It's changed for a lot of reasons. One is that's where the money is today. The threat is going to come at the enterprises because that's what they do. And we have seen indication that the threat is very highly resourced and will just get more so in the future. So this is a new world. We're all connected with IT, we're all dependent on IT, and the threat is coming against our IT.
Mm-hmm. So what then are the key drivers of these changes of consumerization, cloud, and the changing nature of the cyber threats themselves?
Well, so the threat, we mentioned the sophistication of it. The threat starts early, and there's a lot of research and development going that the threat actors are using to make sure they understand the zero-day threat and can get into the systems. So one thing we've all been realizing is you have to assume that they will get through sometimes. You have to understand you will be breached, and you have to be able to respond to it. You have to be ready to do in-depth forensics fast. You have to have designed a system that lets you capture the bad guy's data and figure out who was doing it, and then how to remediate. Is that your experience, Andrzej?
Absolutely. I think plan to fail is a great way of thinking for a CIO or a CISO. Really understand those steps you take post an incident, but also to think about those different threats. So we're not just facing a malicious code or an environment, we're facing an internal threat. Often people who aren't actively trying to damage an organization, but are doing it for idealistic reasons. So there's a huge different array of threats facing an organization, and how you deal with those, how you segment them, and understand the impact on your organization is going to be critical, I think.
It's a pretty sobering reality. I mean, you're going to get hit, and I've heard that before, too. I think you're both absolutely correct. So what do these changes, these really tidal waves of change, mean for CIOs in terms of security threat mitigation, Andrzej?
I think a CIO needs to really take a sort of a three-pronged approach. They need to understand the risk posture and the risk appetite that they're able to accept as an organization. In today's instance on enterprise, we really need to understand how we want to deal with security and our key data assets. So right from a top-down framework and policy, that's absolutely vital. I think you need to understand from a building block perspective up the key elements of your infrastructure, your perimeter, your data centers, your networks, your mobile devices, and how those security technologies interface together. And I think sitting between the two, we need to take a very robust operational approach. That involves taking advanced threat warnings. It does involve correlating events and information across your enterprise and with your partners and with your, sometimes with your competition, to take an industry view about the situation that we're facing. I mean, is that something that you see as well from your perspective?
Absolutely, and it brings to mind what I think a growing need is, which is in order to do that, to have that understanding and the defense in depth, you need good design.
Yeah.
I think this is an area where the architect plays a key role. The people who really understand security and enterprise IT need to bring all this together in a smart way, and enterprises that don't have that capability indigenally need to reach out and get the right folks who can help them do that.
Absolutely, and I think it demands a different response from a corporate security team. They can no longer, I think, view security in silos and just look at the network in one way, or the policy, or even user awareness and training. All of those things need to be integrated together, and that links back to what is that architecture, and I think you talk about that in a really confident way. And that's the key, isn't it? To be able to take that architectural view and build those integration points across the business.
Great information. Andrzej Kawalec from HP, Bob Gourley, blogger, thank you both very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
And I'm Bill Laberis from IDG saying thank you very much for joining me as well.